The desert wind howled outside as Ethan Cole tightened the last bolt on a broken alternator. His small garage, half lit by flickering bulbs, smelled of gasoline and rust. He'd been up since sunrise, repairing tractors, pickup trucks, and anything people could afford to bring in. Life had never been easy, not since his wife passed 5 years ago. Raising his son alone meant every dollar mattered, and every job counted. When night came, Ethan didn't think about rest. He thought about keeping food on the table and making sure Liam could stay in school. That evening, as he locked up, the sound of screeching tires echoed through the empty road. A sleek black Mercedes had broken down a few hundred feet away. Ethan grabbed his flashlight and jogged toward it. The door opened and a woman stepped out, elegant, polished, and utterly out of place among the dust and tumbleweeds. Her heels sank into the sand as she sighed in frustration. "Great, just great," she muttered. Ethan stopped a few feet away, wiping his hands on his rag. "Need some help, ma'am?" She turned, clearly startled, then nodded quickly. "Yes, please." The engine just stopped. "I'm supposed to be in Reno by morning." Her voice carried the sharp tone of someone used to being in control. Ethan studied the car, a new model, top of the line. He could tell from a glance that the issue wasn't minor. "Pop the hood," he said gently. She hesitated, watching him curiously. "Are you a certified mechanic?" Ethan smiled faintly. "Just a small-town one. But engines don't care about titles." When the hood lifted, smoke curled into the air. Ethan leaned in, listening more than looking, his trained ear catching details no machine ever could. The woman watched him, confused at first by his calm confidence. "You shouldn't be out here this late," he said. "Desert roads aren't kind to strangers," she sighed. "I didn't plan it this way. My GPS sent me off route." Ethan chuckled softly. "That's technology for you. Smart enough to build rockets, dumb enough to get lost in Nevada." For the next 2 hours, Ethan worked in silence. The stars blinked awake overhead, painting silver streaks across the desert sky. Sweat clung to his forehead as he adjusted a series of wires and tightened a corroded terminal. The woman sat nearby on the hood, watching him with growing curiosity. She noticed the small scar along his hand, the worn wedding ring he still wore, the quiet strength in his posture. He wasn't doing this for money. He was doing it because someone needed help. Finally, he straightened up and turned the key. The engine roared back to life, steady, flawless. The woman's eyes widened. "You fixed it?" Ethan nodded, smiling tiredly. "She'll get you to Reno, but take her easy for a few miles." She exhaled in relief, genuine gratitude softening her features. "You just saved me?" He shrugged, grabbing his rag again. "Just doing my job, ma'am." She handed him a business card with a logo embossed in gold, Western Industries. "If you ever need work, call me," she said before driving off. Back inside the garage, Ethan placed the card on his dusty counter. "Claire Weston," he murmured. The name sounded familiar, maybe from the business news that played on the old TV in the waiting room. But billionaires didn't come to places like this. He smiled to himself and shut off the lights. In his mind, it was just another night, another stranger helped, another story to tell Liam when he woke up for school. The next morning, as sunlight filtered through the curtains of their trailer, Liam ran out in his pajamas. "Dad, there's a helicopter outside." Ethan laughed, thinking the boy was joking, but then the roar came, deep, thunderous, shaking the ground. He rushed outside and froze. A sleek black helicopter was landing right beside the old garage. Dust swirled in every direction, and when the door opened, Claire Weston stepped out, wearing sunglasses and a confident smile. "Mr. Cole," she called out above the noise, "I believe I owe you more than a thank you." Ethan stood speechless as she approached, her heels crunching on the gravel. "I told my board last night about the mechanic who fixed what my team couldn't. They laughed. So I brought them here to see for themselves." Behind her, 2 men in suits stepped out, holding tablets. Claire turned to Ethan. "How would you like to work for Western Industries as our lead engine consultant?" Ethan blinked, unsure he'd heard right. "Me? Ma'am, I'm just a garage guy." Claire smiled. "That garage guy solved in 2 hours what my engineers couldn't in 2 weeks. Liam peeked from the doorway, eyes wide with excitement. Claire glanced at him fondly. "And I hear you're raising this young man alone. You deserve a real shot, Ethan." The words hit him harder than any paycheck. He looked at his son, then back at her, unable to speak. "I don't have the fancy degrees," he said softly. "You have what matters, instinct, patience, and heart," she replied. "And I could use someone like that." The next few weeks changed everything. Ethan moved to Reno with Liam, where Western Industries built him a private workshop. His first project, a new eco-engine model, became the company's pride. Claire visited often, sometimes just to talk, sometimes to learn. The once distant CEO now admired the quiet man who fixed what her machines couldn't. In time, friendship turned to trust, and trust turned into something deeper, something neither expected but both needed. Years later, people would talk about Ethan Cole, the small-town mechanic who rebuilt not just engines, but lives. His story spread beyond Nevada, beyond business. It wasn't about fame or wealth. It was about a single act of kindness on a lonely desert road that rewrote the course of two very different lives. And every time Claire looked at him, she remembered the first words he ever said to her, "Just doing my job, ma'am." But she knew better now. He wasn't just fixing cars. He was mending hearts. The smell of scrambled eggs and coffee filled the air as sunlight peeked through the cracked blinds of Ethan Cole's trailer. Liam sat at the tiny kitchen table, his feet swinging above the floor, chatting about a school project on airplanes. Ethan smiled quietly, flipping the eggs, pretending not to notice that the power flickered again. The bills were stacked by the toaster, unopened. Life wasn't easy, but it was honest, and for a man who'd lost nearly everything, that meant something. Then came a low, distant rumble that rattled the plates. Ethan froze, spatula in hand. At first, he thought it was thunder rolling across the Nevada flats, but the sound grew louder, deeper, rhythmic. The whole trailer began to shake. Liam looked up, his eyes wide. "Dad, what's that?" Ethan ran to the window and his heart nearly stopped. A sleek black helicopter was descending right outside their dusty yard, sending dirt swirling in every direction. He shielded his eyes against the gust, disbelief written all over his face. Helicopters didn't land here, not in this forgotten corner of nowhere. The door of the helicopter opened and a figure stepped out, tall, graceful, wrapped in a long beige coat that fluttered in the wind. For a second, Ethan thought he was dreaming. But no, it was her, Claire Weston, the woman whose car he had fixed just days ago, the billionaire whose business card still sat on his workbench, uncalled and forgotten. "Stay inside, buddy," he told Liam. But the boy pressed his face to the window, too curious to obey. Ethan stepped out into the sunlight, boots crunching on gravel. Claire smiled, a mix of confidence and something gentler. Something real. "Mr. Cole," she called out over the roar of the blades, her voice steady. "I told you you saved me. Now it's my turn." Her assistant handed her a sleek black folder, which she carried like it weighed a fortune. When the helicopter powered down, silence took over, broken only by the desert wind. Ethan blinked in confusion. "Ma'am, you didn't need to come all the way out here," he said, still half shouting over the fading sound. "Oh, I did," she replied. "You gave me back more than a car that night." "You gave me perspective," Ethan frowned. "Perspective?" Claire nodded, stepping closer, her designer boots sinking slightly into the sand. "I built an empire from speed and precision, but sometimes I forget what real skill looks like, the kind you can't buy with a degree or a title." She handed him the folder. "Inside is an offer. I want you to come work for Western Automotive as our chief mechanic. Salary, housing, full benefits, and I'll personally fund your son's education." Ethan stared, unable to process the words. "Ma'am, that's too much," she smiled. "No, it's exactly what's fair." For the first time in years, Ethan didn't know what to say. His hands, used to tightening bolts and wiping oil, trembled as he held the folder. He could see his reflection in her sunglasses, a tired man, still wearing the same faded work shirt. "Why me?" he asked softly. Claire tilted her head. "Because when I broke down in the desert, surrounded by engineers and luxury, not one of them could help. But you, with nothing, did. You remind me what real genius looks like. You fixed more than an engine that day. You fixed me. Behind them, Liam ran out, his small voice breaking the tension. Dad, is that your helicopter? He shouted excitedly. Claire laughed, kneeling down to greet him. No, sweetie. It's ours if your dad says yes. Ethan smiled despite himself. Liam's eyes sparkled. You mean we can fly in it? Claire winked. Only if your dad takes the job. The boy turned to him with pleading eyes that said everything. Ethan sighed, a smile tugging at his lips. You drive a hard bargain, he murmured, half to himself, half to fate. Claire stepped closer, her voice softer now. Ethan, I've seen people fix engines my company spent millions designing, but I've never seen anyone fix one with patience, care, and humility like you did. I want that spirit at my company. I want people to see that heart still matters in an industry ruled by machines. For a long moment, Ethan said nothing. The offer meant leaving behind his small shop, his routine, his comfort zone. But then he looked at Liam, his son's face glowing with hope. Maybe for once it was time to dream bigger. He exhaled slowly and extended his hand. You've got yourself a deal, Ms. Weston. She smiled, shaking his calloused hand firmly. Good, she said, because I've already told my team to prepare your workspace. You start Monday. Ethan laughed, still in disbelief. Liam clapped his hands. Dad's gonna work for the lady with the helicopter. Claire chuckled warmly. That's right, champ. The helicopter lifted moments later, leaving a trail of dust and a promise that everything was about to change. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's life transformed completely. His new garage gleamed with state-of-the-art equipment, every tool he'd ever dreamed of owning. Engineers now called him Sir. Liam attended a private school with a smile Ethan hadn't seen since his wife passed. Claire often stopped by to check his progress, but it wasn't just business anymore. She admired the way he taught others, how he stayed humble despite the fame. One afternoon, she confessed quietly, "You remind me that success isn't what we own, it's what we give." Months later, at a major automotive convention in Las Vegas, Ethan stood beside Claire as they unveiled a new hybrid engine, one he had designed. The crowd erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. For a moment, Ethan glanced up at the bright lights and thought about the dusty Nevada road where it all began. A broken car, a helping hand, and a chance encounter that rewrote his fate. As he looked at Claire smiling beside him, he knew something for certain. Miracles don't always fall from the sky. Sometimes they land right outside your trailer.